Hey guys, it's Pineapple, and in this video we're going to talk about the next chapter of My Hero Academia chapter 362, where something very terrible happens to Bakugo, actually. So, get ready for the chapter after that intro, and let's just get to it. Hit it! So first I want to say shout out to all the leakers on Twitter. Shout out to Pepito, shout out to Rukusu who joined the Pepito team, right? Justice is out there. Shout out to all you guys for the amazing work that you do in getting us this information as quickly as possible. I'm very big in the leak culture in America for like Marvel movies and all that kind of stuff, so naturally I would be part of it for the other stuff that I like My Hero, and I feel like it just allows for a lot more conversation, right? So let's get into the spoilers for this chapter. We're going to start off with the fact that Tamaki thinks about Fat Gum, Kirishima, Tetsu, and Mirio. He concentrates and shoots, calling it Vast Hybrid Plasma Cannon. Now, if you remember last chapter, we left off with Tamaki doing pretty much a massive move, or preparing a massive move to use on Shigaraki, right? Like, he lets out all the different parts of his body that are made of things that he ate, right? And then forms it into a giant like arm cannon, and in this chapter we do see him try to use it on Shigaraki. Rukusu says that it's one of the biggest special techniques in the whole series, and you can see the beam reaching for miles and miles beyond the barrier. So this is like some Star and Stripes level stuff that Tamaki is doing, like some massive beam level stuff, and it seems like it doesn't do enough to hurt Shigaraki, right? Which is a little ridiculous at this point, you know? Like, I get that Prime All Might is this like god among men, more or less, in the series of My Hero Academia, just like Prime All for One. And it's been said by multiple characters multiple times that Shigaraki's body is on the level of durability and strength as Prime All Might. Yeah, that's very impressive, but him just completely tanking Tamaki's blast after last chapter's cliffhanger, I feel like is really nuts. Like, it really just goes to show how difficult it is to hurt Shigaraki, and like how impressive it is that Bakugo is able to do the very little damage that he actually did already. So Rukusu continues to say, but even that isn't enough to hurt Tomura All for One. Shigaraki asks Tamaki if he really thinks Prime All Might would die from such an attack. When all seems lost, Bakugo stands up. So we've seen a couple panels from this chapter, and we know that Bakugo starts getting up, and Best Jeanist is like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? And Bakugo starts kind of like, he looks a little out of it, honestly, when he stands up. Half of his face is off, you know what I mean? And one of his eyes is barely open. The other eye just looks like loosely open, like he's kind of like, all right, well, I know what I gotta do here, you know what I mean? I did read Dragon Ball, so I know right now when there's a regenerating enemy and a dude of explosions, there's probably one thing I can likely do, right? So Bakugo stands up and starts moving insanely fast. Shigaraki apparently can't keep up, and it says that Bakugo's pupils have cluster explosion sound effects. It's at that point that we get narration explaining his quirk, and it says that cluster, which is Bakugo's most recent quirk awakening that he's gotten right over the course of the series, has a secondary effect of allowing him to produce explosions from his whole body. So while Bakugo is fighting against Shigaraki, pretty much using full cowling explosions, right? He thinks to himself, can I still keep up with you, Izuku, right? Calling Deku by his actual name, kind of taking a page out of Deku's book, right? In a very, very strong way, because Deku over the course of the series always takes pages out of different heroes that he's inspired by, and one of the biggest, obviously, is Bakugo, right? Like, he is constantly taking things from Bakugo's kit, or kind of things that Bakugo does, like his movement, and applying it to his own moveset. So here I think is very, very interesting that more or less Bakugo is doing full cowling with explosions, right? Like, he stopped thinking about explosion being something that he can only do with one body part, kind of like Deku is doing with One for All, putting it in one body part. And now he's thinking more so like, if I just put the explosions all over my body and think about it as I can use it all over, that'll vastly upgrade the things that I'm able to do, right? And make my movement and everything much better and make me much more powerful. So I think that's very, very iconic and very, very awesome, honestly, in this chapter, for Bakugo more or less to take full cowling from Deku and do it with explosions, right? Making himself more or less a living explosion. Rukusu continues on with the spoilers, saying that All for One, which is the All for One inside of Shigaraki, doesn't understand why he's feeling uneasy, even though he's not fighting against an All for One user. But that's when he remembers the second user. Now, there's a lot of speculation about this. A lot of people are saying, you know, maybe the Bakugo theory is here. I recently just did a collaboration with Turtlequick, actually. I think it might be out today or tomorrow or soon at some point, but we did cover that a little bit and start talking about that, and I just do not see that theory coming true, right? Like, especially given all the stuff that has happened in this Bakugo and Shigaraki section. I mean, you can start with the fact that Bakugo's scar isn't on the right side of his face. There's no time travel in My Hero Academia. You could start with the fact that there's just a lot of reasons that I just don't see it coming true. And in this chapter, I feel like this doesn't imply that it's coming true at all, right? Like, there are obvious parallels between Bakugo and the second user, and I've been saying for a while that I feel like the second user is a very, very heavy parallel to Bakugo because maybe he's his ancestor or something, and it kind of drives home a lot of points about Deku and Bakugo's friendship, or even Deku's ability to save Shigaraki, right? But as far as there being an actual connection between Bakugo and the second user, of that actually being some sort of grown-up Bakugo, I think that's absolutely ridiculous, right? And the fandom, y'all are just coping at this point, trying to have that be the way that Bakugo is going to survive. So Shigaraki, all for one, goes for an all-out attack against Bakugo, and Bakugo sees himself in an all-white void facing All Might's ghost, pretty much All Might's vestige from One for All, right? And this is Bakugo in the vestige world, right? Something that we literally have not seen, I believe, even in Heroes Rising. We haven't seen Bakugo go into the vestige world because that's something that's very, very reserved for One for All users or All for One users, right? It's their own sort of kind of quirk space. And Bakugo going into the vestige space in this chapter really, really calls back to My Hero Academia Heroes Rising, right? Which is a movie that a lot of people in the United States and in the West were led to believe isn't true or isn't canon, right? By a lot of marketing and stuff like that, and a lot of like dumb people on Twitter saying this movie isn't canon. We had it proved that the first movie was canon with Star and Stripes, and there was never any sort of confusion whether or not Heroes Rising was canon. When it came out in Japan, it seemed like everyone understood, and there were statements from Horikoshi and various people letting us know that that movie was canon. But then you have the movie come across the river, and you have Funimation and people saying there's no spoilers in the movie. This movie isn't canon. It doesn't matter. And that's absolutely wrong. And I love seeing it when people and companies get egg on their face for saying things like that go completely against what the mangaka himself has said about the canonicity or canonicity or whatever it is about the movies. So honestly, for anyone who didn't like Heroes Rising or didn't want it to be canon, it is, and you have to deal with it. Bakugo at one point in time was a One for All user for a short period. Even if the transfer didn't complete or whatever All Might's explanation was, that doesn't have to be true, because we know that All Might doesn't actually know all that much about One for All and is kind of just talking out of his butt most of the time. Bakugo was a user of One for All, and with that, that does give him access to the vestige space, right? And pretty much going into the vestige space and becoming a vestige at the moment of his death, right? And it seems like All Might is pretty much there to welcome him, or to say goodbye, honestly, and acknowledge that this is Bakugo's last moments. And if you want to speculate whether or not that means that Deku will get Explosion in the future, I think that's actually very possible, even though I do think the second quirk is going to be fairly similar to Explosion, if not some sort of laser beam. However, that pretty much doesn't override the thought that I do think Bakugo is out of here, especially because as the spoilers continue, Bakugo immediately understands what's happening. He gets what's going on here. He knows. He's seen Dragon Ball. He knows right now he's the Majin Vegeta of this arc, right? And he reveals his only regret to All Might being he really, really wanted All Might to sign his legendary All Might card, right? There's a card that Deku and Bakugo both got when they were young, when they were eating like a bag of chips, right, with heroes on them, that had a special All Might card, and they both kept it up until this point in the future. Bakugo's love for All Might and Bakugo's appreciation for All Might is very big, right? Like, it's Deku is the only person I think that can compare, or maybe Koichi, right, that has this appreciation for All Might and who he is, and they both took it in two very different directions. But this is a very, very humbling moment where it's like, hey man, all I wanted was to be like you. All I wanted was for you to sign my card and for you to earn it, you know what I mean? And it really, really brings Bakugo's character full circle, on top of the fact that he called Izuku by his name, right? He called Deku by his actual name in his final moments. So from here, we see the big three and Mirko appear and rush towards Shigaraki all for one, landing a blow on him at the same time, but something apparently terrible has happened. The news are reporting a sudden increase in the temperature. The civilians are confused. And we then see a panel of Bakugo's parents. All for one asks why they thought they had any chance, and the heroes are all shocked beyond belief. Bakugo's heart has stopped, and he lays on the ground. The last page is a double page spread, a truly heartbreaking one. There's blood on Bakugo's face, and you see the All Might card near him on the ground. And it seems like after blowing himself up, at least according to the spoilers, And it seems like after using whatever sort of explosion Bakugo was able to use, his heart gave out because I don't think his body was prepared to do the things that he was trying to make it do. So that is seemingly the end of Bakugo. Now, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this development, right? Like whether or not we're going to see Bakugo again. Man, there's so much copium. Some people think the second user has a healing quirk and he's going to heal Bakugo. That's stupid. Some people think that Kaminari is going to come and defibrillate Bakugo when he's actually holding up the entire sky base. That's stupid. Some people think All Might is going to give Shigaraki like some sort of power up, even though All Might's vestige literally doesn't have any power or any ability to do that, and Bakugo doesn't currently have one for all. That's stupid. Some people think Recovery Girl or Eri is going to do something. Eri already used all of her quirk energy on Mirio, and it stocked up over 6 months just for her to be able to rewind a human being and not a lizard, and it hasn't been that long since she's used it. So Eri is not going to be of any help, and we saw that Recovery Girl is literally barely standing, and her lips are drooping all the way down to her chin. So that's not going to be it. Genus isn't going to be able to do anything. Mirko isn't going to be able to do anything. Tamaki or Nejire aren't going to be able to do anything. Mirio maybe could grab his heart and pump it. I really doubt he's going to do that. It seems like this is the end for Bakugo. And if that is the case, what does it mean for the future of My Hero Academia? Especially, what does it mean for when Deku gets to this battlefield? Because we know right now that Deku is all about saving Tenko, right, from Shigaraki. And we know that he is going to have to beat the life out of him to do that. But does there come a point where even Deku gives up on saving somebody, right? Gives up on saving Tenko because of what Tenko or Shigaraki or All For One did? Or can Deku see past that and see that inside there is still a victim who didn't do this? He's not really the one who did this, and still try and save Shigaraki. I think a lot of the fandom is going to want Deku to get ultimate revenge if this does end up fleshing out. But I don't know. I feel like he is still going to try to save Tenko, but maybe, right? It's very hard to say that considering that Bakugo is gone, right? If Bakugo is in fact gone, I think Shigaraki is going to have a very, very long day, and much longer day than he was already going to have. And I feel like All For One is next at some point, right? So what do you think is going to happen in the next chapter of My Hero Academia? We are going on a 2-week break, I believe. And then, yeah, who knows if we're going to cut to like another area after that. This is a perfect cliffhanger to jump to another area for a while and kind of leave us in the mist, because we don't actually know what's going on with Bakugo beyond the fact that it seems like he's dead. And depending on how Horikoshi does it, if he tries to bring him back somehow or say, no, he wasn't dead, this was just a fake out, after literally giving us a Bakugo death fake out just chapters ago, I think Horikoshi is a fraud if that's the case, right? I would think Horikoshi is a fraud if that's the case, honestly. Like, if Bakugo survives by some sort of BS, this is the ultimate Mickey Mouse series, right? And we might as well all start going to read Black Clover, because Lord, right? Like, you just don't do it this way. There's a way to do a fake out. Horikoshi knows how to do fake outs. He's done multiple already, even for Bakugo. In the War arc we had one, in this arc we had one recently with Shigaraki, showing Bakugo what it would look like if he crushed him with all his fingers and stuff, or at least Bakugo having a vision of his death. That's how you do a fake out and a page turn and everything. If this is a fake out, this is like scummy. If this is a fake out, this is like one of the dumbest ones, honestly, because you don't do it in this way, I feel like. But we're gonna see. I have faith in Horikoshi. I don't think that he's gonna go back on this. This is one of the most shocking decisions he's ever made in the entire story, by killing off this character, who is obviously the most popular character. We've seen him win every popularity poll. But, you know, if that's the way the cookie crumbles, that's the way the cookie crumbles. So I'm going to see you guys next time. This is Pineapple. We're going to talk about the chapter in a little more depth the next time we see each other. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.